back with more Dirty Laundry. Today, our guests are the Night Marchers.
Yay!
Yes. Great show last night,
Thanks.
guys. Thanks for your time. So
I love the smell of laundromats, so I enjoy my time here.
It's the only reason we do this.
It smells so clean.
Hot Snakes is one of my favorite names for any band.
Oh, cool. Yeah, actually my grandfather came up with that name.
How?
He before he passed, he had traveled the world quite a bit, and he told me a story about, I want to say he was like in Taiwan, I think, and there was a neighborhood that specialized in snakes, eating snakes, and it was like the snake street where you go to eat snakes. And so there's signs just saying hot snakes, you know, there, which is, a lot of people think it's like a fecal related name, which couldn't be further from the truth. But a lot of people have come to me saying like, oh, that's a name for, I'd never even heard of that before, like referring to
poop
as a hot snake.
I just thought of wiener.
When the Hot Snake started, it was Jason and I, it was just the two of us, and we started kind of, you know, I had these songs that I wrote, and he came out and we practiced them and went in and recorded them. And I think at the time the thought was like, okay, yeah, and I'll sing on these songs. And after one attempt, it was just totally not happening. It made it sound worse. It was detracting from the music. So that, I think it's been kind of like that in the past, like with Drive Like Jehu. It's like those are songs that I wouldn't know what to do with vocally. And also important with Rick is, you know, not only do I love his guitar playing, but his voice and his lyrics are, so many times he just kind of, I'll bring him an idea and he takes it to a place that just is, to me, it just sounds way better than what I would just do on my own.
You guys are a good team.
Yeah.
How did you meet
we
Rick
all are good.
Froberg?
All of us are good teammates.
How did you meet Rick Froberg?
I met him at a Anarchy picnic. It was a picnic that was sponsored by a anti-authoritarian newsletter called The Daily Impulse, and I was
in San Diego.
In San Diego, and I was writing like kind of show reviews for them at the time, and they did these. They were reaching out. They were a political newsletter, but they were reaching out to the punks because they felt, you know, a kinship. These are young kids that are into the politics. So yeah, they had these picnics where bands would play and whatnot, and I met Rick at one of those. Yeah.
Why did Drive Like Jehu break up?
I don't think we really broke up. I think it just kind of stopped, and then a long period of time went by, and then it was like, well, I guess we're done. You know.
Yeah.
There was never a definitive end. We're still playing. We're still going. It's like you never broke up.
Yeah. So you're still playing. So Hot Snakes did a reunion. So is Rocket from the Crypt going to as well?
Yeah, we're going to play a couple shows.
Do you think Drive Like Jehu will get to do that too?
I don't know. You know, it's there was just talk. That's it. You know, a year or two ago, and it never went beyond that. It was just kind of like, you know. But never say never. I can't speak for the other people in the band. For me, it's kind of like that. Like I do like those songs. I think they'd be fun to play, and it'd be fun to play with those people again. You know. But also a lot of, you know, it was created when we were different people, you know, and our interests were a bit different. So I could also understand if someone isn't super keen on revisiting that because they're like, they're just not there mentally or physically right now. And the physical is actually a part of it because there's certain, you sound different when you're younger than you do when you're older, you know, so, and maybe screaming your fucking ass off for an hour is the coolest thing in the world when you're in your 20s, but maybe when you get older, you're like, ugh, that just sounds like a headache and work, you know, so without, I'm just kind of guessing, you know, because that was kind of what it was for me with Rocket. I was not super looking forward to going back there because I had stuff going on now that I was really psyched on, but the prospect of playing with those people again, my friends, because we all still get along, and also, like the whole time you're in a band, you want people to like you. You're like, you want people to hear you and have the chance to decide whether they like you or not. But ultimately, you do hope that people like what you're doing. I mean, if they don't, fine, fuck them. But in the back of your head, you're like, man, it would be really cool if people like this too. And after a while, when people start saying, hey, I really want to see this band, I want to see you guys play, come, do this, it's like, it feels retarded to say no, because you're like, well, yeah, I mean, there's all that time when this would have been so great. What is different now than then? Well, I guess not that much, really. With the Hot Snakes getting back together, it was the music seemed to look more current because it didn't go back as far as like maybe Drive Like Jehu or Rocket, but there was, I think, a little bit of hesitation. But as soon as we played, that when we played Obits and Night Marchers did a tour together, and at the end of our last show we did a couple Hot Snakes songs, and it was like, oh, this is easy and fun, and it's fun to play those songs. I like those songs. Like you said, that's exactly what it is, and it makes people happy. It's cool.
John, you do some producing.
Yeah, I have.
Most notably.
So does Gar.
And so does Gar. How was it working with Superchunk, and how did that union form?
That was a long time ago. It was good. I made the coffee, and we were only in the studio for like 3 days. And I think what they were looking for is someone, I think, that liked the way the Rocket record sounded, and they wanted to go into the same studio, but they didn't know anyone there, so they wanted a liaison who had kind of been there a bunch of times to kind of bridge whatever gaps might occur. But yeah. It was fun. I mean, those guys were really good. They're very good, and they're very well rehearsed, and they work fast, and they write great songs, and it was cool.
Yeah.
It's a great record.
They were very good. What about now?
They're still really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was trying to dig up some dirty logic.
I don't really enjoy it that much, because it takes a lot of patience, and I always feel like I'm kind of not meeting the expectations of bands who a lot of younger bands that have never listened to themselves actually before, and you expose the way they sound and everything. You refer to it as like the dream squasher. And it's kind of stressful, because you feel for people. You want it to be good, but sometimes people don't have real expectations of what they really sound like. Who knows? You'd probably say it's like B. A B.
A B might be a solid B. That's not bad.
What? A young? Oh, well, how young? Like when? Like
14.
16. DRI, Finnish hardcore, Belgian hardcore. Yeah. Stuff that some of that stuff I still like now, but a lot of it is pretty bad. The good stuff is still really good, Still listen, put on Siege, and that's still pretty awesome, crushing to this day. I think the music's just gone back, underground, really, when, in the 90s, it was the stuff we were making in garages all of a sudden was kind of like bubbled up to the surface, and everyone thought that they had a chance to grab some kind of gold ring because they were being told that, yeah, this is something that there was all these opportunities to be on the radio and TV, and this was seen as like the new, music, and I think it just went back to like when I was in high school, where the stuff I was into it was just underground, there wasn't major labels signing these bands, there wasn't opportunities for them to be on the radio. Was making a video and getting on MTV was definitely something that would never happen, So I think the angry stuff is just back there, you know. And that's cool, that's fine, you know. It will bubble up to the surface again, you know. It'll happen. I was psyched. We were on a total dog shit label anyways, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, this is gonna be better. We're gonna get some money and we can quit our jobs for a while and go on the road and, you know, totally make decadent records and live the rock and roll, you know, fantasy, you know. Like, we didn't look at it as like we've made it, but we looked at it like, wow, we can just do this now. Even if it's for a short while, we can do it, you know.
How did the union with Interscope come about?
They were first interested in Drive Like Jehu. This woman who's now a really good friend of mine, Anna Statman, she was really into Drive Like Jehu, and would come to our shows. And she was the first person that was interested in the band, like not even as a label, but just as a person. It seemed like, you know, outside of San Diego, she was like one of the first people that, you know, come to our shows. And I was working at Cargo Records that put out our records at the time, and she would call and ask when we were playing, and so that's kind of how it started. And then she found out about Rocket, and then she's like, well, let's do this. And it's not an interesting story, but whatever.
It's interesting to us.
It was a fun kind of experience, you know, because we got to do a lot of cool stuff. Like, I got to check out probably about like 60 recording studios in Los Angeles, just going on a tour and just checking them out, you know. And that was a cool, you know, for someone who likes to make records and likes to check out that side of things. That was a great opportunity, and, you know, got to a lot of strange things that were, you know, just kind of funny in retrospect. Like meeting Ahmet Ertegun and having him tell you, yeah, you remind me of, you know, Led Zeppelin, you know. You're like, oh, cool. Knowing very well that he's never heard the band, you know. They're like, hey, you know, we're thinking about signing these guys. Oh, you know.
He just says that to every band.
Yeah, but it was awesome. I mean, he's an icon.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. I remember early days at Interscope Records, Gerardo. Do you know who Gerardo is? Gerardo was Too Sexy for a Shirt. That was his big song.
Of course.
He was an Interscope guy, and he was in the offices all the time, not wearing a shirt. Always. I saw him there all the time.